and we're moving into how Yahweh is going to protect and establish this seed or this line. So Genesis 12, verse 1. Now Yahweh had said unto Abraham, Get thee out of thy country, the land of confusion, Babylon, and from thy kindred, and from thy father's house, unto a land that I will show thee. Verse 2. And I will make thee a great nation, and I will bless thee, and make thy name great, and thou shalt be a blessing. Verse 3. And I will bless them that bless thee, and curse him that curseth thee. And in thee shall all the families of the earth be blessed. Hence, cleave to Israel. So we see that all nations are being blessed through Abraham, but also for the purpose of our Messiah, because our Messiah is not yet come to the world as the one that would be standing in for the sins of the children of Israel and to the other nations that were created in Genesis chapter 1. Verse 4, So Abram departed, as Yahweh had spoken unto him, and Lot went with him. And Abram was 75 years old when he departed out of Haran. So he's 75 years old. And Abram took Sarai his wife, and Lot his brother's son, and their substance, and all that they had, to the plain of Morah, which is teaching. And the Canaanite was in the land. Verse 7, And Yahweh appeared to Abram, and said unto thee, Unto thy seed I will give the land. And there builded he an altar unto Yahweh, who appeared unto him. So again, we know it wasn't Yahweh that appeared unto him. So let's consider who this angel that appeared unto Abraham. And let's consider that Abram is building an altar to the Most High, because the Most High is telling him to get out of this land of Shechem, which is the back or the shoulder concerning the land, right? This is the land that they're traveling through and around. Verse 8, And he removed from thence unto a mountain of the east of Bethel. Now Bethel means the house of Yah. And pitched his tent, having Bethel on the east, and Hai, Hai, which is a heap or ruins, on the east. And there he builded an altar to Yahweh, and called upon the name of Yahweh. And Abram journeyed, going on still towards the south. Now listen, this is another thing that we're going to see over and over again. And there was a famine in the land. Okay? So there's a famine in the land of the Canaanite. And Abram went down into Egypt to sojourn there, for the famine was grievous in the land. And it came to pass, when he was near to enter Egypt, and he said to Sarai his wife, Behold now, I know that thou art a fair woman to look upon. Keep in mind, Abram is 10 years older than Sarai. Okay, so she's 65, and she's still very beautiful, so much so that the kings of Egypt wanted her, right? So this was pretty normal in these times, in these lands. When a beautiful woman would come along, the king would have his men go out and take the woman, and then he would lie with the woman regardless of whether the woman liked it or not. Verse 12, Therefore it shall come upon to pass, when the Egyptians shall see thee, that they shall say, This is his wife, and they will unalive me. But they will save thee alive, speaking to Sarah. Verse 13, Say, I pray thee that thou art my sister, that it may be well with me for thy sake. So he's not only concerned for himself, but he's concerned for his wife, right? And Yahweh has just made a covenant with Abram, right? He's telling him to get out of the land. And he says, And my soul shall live because of thee. So again, in verse 14, it says, And it came to pass, when Abram was come into Egypt, the Egyptians beheld the woman, that she was very fair. The princes also of Pharaoh saw her, and commended her before Pharaoh, and the woman was taken into Pharaoh's house. So they've now taken Sarai. This was the fear that Abram had going into the land. And he entreated Abram well for her sake. And he had sheep and oxen and he-asses and men servants and maidservants and she-asses and camels. Now again, remember that Abram is left out of Babylon with nothing, and Yahweh is blessing Abram in the midst of his troubles right now, okay? Verse 17. And Yahweh plagued Pharaoh and his house with a great plague because of Sarai, Abram's wife. And Pharaoh called Abram and said, What is this that thou hast done unto me? Why did thou not tell me that she was thy wife? Why saidst thou, She is my sister? So I might have taken her to be my wife. Now therefore, behold, thy wife, take her and go thy way. And Pharaoh commanded his men concerning him, and they sent him away, and his wife, and all that he had. So he just obtained a whole bunch of stuff from this Pharaoh, right? So we see that when we're obedient to the Father, he always takes care of us. All right, Genesis chapter 13. So we're seeing now Abram and Sarai continue on, and he will become a great man of many nations. That's what it's leading up to. Genesis 13:1. And Abram went up out of Egypt, and his wife, and all that he had, and Lot, Abraham's nephew, was with him in the south. And Abram was very rich in cattle, and in silver, and in gold. Just because he listened, he's already wealthy. And he went on his journeys from the south, even to Bethuel, again, the house of Yah, unto the place where his tent had been at the beginning, between Bethel and Hai, again, unto the place of the altar which he had made there at the first. And Abram called on the name of Yahweh. And Lot also, which was with Abram, had flocks and herds and tents. And the land was not able to bear them, that they might dwell together, for their substance was great, so that they could not dwell together. And there was strife between the herdmen of Abram's cattle and the herdmen of Lot's cattle. Now, here's the key. And the Canaanite and the Perizzite dwelled in this land. And Abraham said unto Lot, Let there be no strife, I pray thee, between me and thee, and between my herdmen and thy herdmen, for we are brethren. Key point here. Is not the whole land before thee? Separate thyself, I pray thee, from me. If thou wilt take the left hand, then I will go to the right. Or if thou wilt depart to the right hand, then I will go to the left. And Lot lifted up his eyes, and beheld all the plain of Jordan, that it was well watered everywhere, before Yahweh destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah, even as the garden of Yahweh, like the land of Egypt, as thou comest unto Zoar. Now listen, they're so great in cattle and in number that the land that they're currently in, their tribesmen or their herdsmen are not getting along. And there's a reason for this. Consider where Lot ends up, okay? And consider what Abram has done thus far. He's been obedient, and he knows the rules of the land. Verse 11, Then Lot shows him all the plain of Jordan. So Abram has given Lot the decision to go whatever direction Lot chose, okay? Which right now is not a good direction. And Lot journeyed east, and they separated themselves one from another. Verse 12, Abram dwelled in the land of Canaan, and Lot dwelled in the cities of the plain, and pitched his tent towards Sodom. But the men of Sodom were wicked and sinners before Yahweh exceedingly. Verse 14, And Yahweh said unto Abram, after that Lot was separated from him, Lift up thy eyes now, and look from the place where thou art northward and southward and eastward and westward. So Yahweh is telling Lot, look up, or Abraham, sorry, telling Abram, look up, and anywhere in any direction that you look. And listen to what he says in verse 15. For all the land which thou seest, to thee will I give it to, for thy seed forever. So here's the seed mentioned again. And he's also just made it clear that no matter what direction Lot goes in, the land will still belong to Abram. Okay? Verse 16. And I will make thy seed as the dust of the earth, so that if a man can number the dust of the earth, then shall thy seed also be numbered. Meaning, even today, if a man could number or put a number on the dust of the earth, the sand of the sea, that would be the number of the descendants that would come from Abram's loins. And consider this as well. Sarah is barren. We read that in the last chapter, right? That was the first thing that we read about when it was about Terah. Okay, Terah and his family and Lot and all of that said that Sarai was barren. But here we see the Father promising Abram that he's going to make him a father of many nations. So you've got to be considering the thoughts that are going through Abram's mind at this point. Verse 17. Arise, walk through the land in the length of it and in the breadth of it, for I will give it unto thee. Then Abram removed his tent and came and dwelled in the plain of Mamre, which is in Hebron, and he built an altar there unto Yahweh. Again, giving thanks to the Father over and over and over. So now we're seeing in Genesis 14, Abram is moving again into a strange land. And it came to pass in the days of Amphro, which means keeper of the gods, king of Shinar, and Arok, king of Elazar, and Chedorlaomer, king of Elam, and Tidal, king of nations. Okay, so all of these bloodlines we've already gone through for the most part, and these are the fallen bloodlines that are about to go to war with one another. Okay, verse 2. That these made war with Bera, meaning son of evil, king of Sodom, and with Bersha, king of Gomorrah, and Shinab, king of Adamah, and Shember, king of Zebulun, and king of Bela, which is in Zoar. All of these were joined together in the valley of Shittim, which is the Salt Sea. So they're getting ready to go to war. Verse 4, 12 years they served Chedorlaomer, and in the 13th year they rebelled. Okay, this is why they're going to fight. And in the 14th year came Chedorlaomer, the king that was where Chedorlaomer and the kings that were with him, and smote the Rephaims, the fallen angels, okay, the offspring of the fallen angels, the Rephaim, in Ashtaroth. Okay, again, we know where Ashtaroth is always speaking about these Baal gods, these Baal worship gods. Okay, and eventually we see that Astartes comes from this, which is the queen of heaven, later on in Scripture. It says Ashtaroth, Karnam, and the Zezims, and Ham, which were in Ham, and Emus, and Shebeth of Kirthlim. I'm trying my best to pronounce all of these, but they are tongue twisters. And the Horites in Mount Seir, upon Elpron, which is in the wilderness, or by the wilderness. And they returned and came unto Anishpat, which is Kadesh, and smote all of the country of the Alakmalites and the Amorites that dwelled in Hazatamar. Okay, again, these are all offspring of the fallen. And my tongue just doesn't twist to these names. And they went out, the king of Sodom, and the king of Gomorrah, and the king of Adamah, and the king of Zebom, and the king of Bela. The same is in Zohar. And they joined battle with them in the Val of Shittim, with Chedorlaomer, the king of Elam, and with Tidal, king of nations, and with Amperl, king of Shinar, and Arioch, king of Elazar, four kings with 5. Okay? We're almost through this nonsense. And the Val of Shittim was full of slime pits, and the kings of Sodom and Gomorrah fled and fell there, that they might remain, and they that remained fled into the mountains. We're going to see more of these later on with Joshua and all of that when we get to that part. And they took all the goods of Sodom and Gomorrah and all of their victuals and went their way. And they took Lot. Why? Because Lot chose this area, and Lot was in this area. Okay? Now listen to what Abram does. And they took Lot, Abram's brother's son, who dwelt in Sodom, and his goods, and departed. So Abram's not having this, guys. So it might have sounded like Abram was a little fearful earlier, but he was in fear for his wife. Okay? And he was in fear for his own life because, again, was few in number, but they're growing. Abram is growing in number. By the time we get to Isaac, you're going to see just how large they truly are. Verse 13, and there came one that had escaped and told Abram the Hebrew. This is the first time we see Hebrew being mentioned. And Hebrew means from Eber, or he that crosses the river. Remember I told you earlier, remember Eber. For he dwelt in the plains of Mamre, the Amorite, brother of Eshcol, and the brother of Anor, and these were confederate with Abram. So they were allies to Abram. Okay? Not all of them at this point were enemies. They were fighting amongst each other. And Abram was well feared and well respected and well loved, as you're going to see, as all of them are, right? They're all respected. Even through Moses and all of that, you're going to see that they would always bow down and be respectful, even when they were the ones that had the power and authority. You're going to see when Abram buries Sarai, he's very forward about how he feels about burying Sarai or allowing Sarai to be buried amongst the people of the land. And he's very respectful about the way that he goes about it. So let's see, verse 15. So Abram's now, he divides himself up against them and his servants by night, and smote them and pursued them unto Haba, which is left of Damascus. So I should back up because I skipped verse 14. And Abram heard that his brother was taken captive. He armed and trained his servants, born in his own house, 308, and pursued them unto Dan. Now, the 308 has a significant meaning, but I'm not going to break that down. Okay, so we see that he divides his servants up, and he attacks them by night, according to verse 15, and smote them, and pursued them unto Haba, which is left of the left hand of Damascus. Verse 16, and he brought back all the goods, and also brought back again his brother Lot, again it's his nephew, and his goods, and the women also, and the people. So he saved the women and the people. Very, very awesome. Verse 17, and the king of Sodom went out to meet him after his return. Now listen to what happens. From the slaughter of Chedorlaomer, and the kings that were with him at the valley of Shab, which is the king's dale. Verse 18. Now listen. This is just my opinion, but listen. And Melchizedek, king, which meaning king of the elect, king of Salem, brought forth bread and wine. Remember that. And he was the priest of the Most High Yah. Question: did Yeshua exist before he was born in the flesh? And this is just a question. Again, I'm not 100% sure of this, but go to John chapter 6, 53 through 58. It says, Then Yeshua said unto them, Verily, verily, I say unto you, except you eat the flesh of the Son of Man and drink his blood, you have no life in you. Now, of course, he's not physically speaking about eating his flesh and drinking his blood. Whosoever eateth my flesh and drinketh my blood hath eternal life, and I will raise him up in the last day. For my flesh is meat indeed, and my blood is drink indeed. He that eateth my flesh and drinketh my blood dwelleth in me, and I in him. As the living Father has sent me, and I live by the Father, so hath he eaten me, even he shall live by me. This is the bread which came down from heaven, not as your fathers did eat manna, and are dead. He that eateth of this bread shall live forever. So what did the king, what is this king, the king of the elect, King Melchizedek, king of Salem, Prince of Peace? He brought forth bread and wine. Okay? Now, go to Hebrews 7, verses 1 through 12. It says this, For this Melchizedek, king of Salem, priest of the Most High, Yah, who met Abram returning from the slaughter of the kings, and blessed him, to whom also Abraham gave a tenth of the spoil, first being interpreted king of righteousness, and after king of Salem, which is king of peace, without father, without mother, without descent, having neither being beginning of days, nor end of life, but made he like unto the sons of Yah, abideth a priest continually. Now consider how great this man was, unto whom even the patriarch Abraham gave a tenth of the spoils. And verily, they are the sons of Levi, who were priests, who received the office of the priesthood, have a commandment to take tithes to the people according to their law, that is, of their brethren, though they come of the loins of Abraham, but whose descent is not counted from them that received tithes of Abram, and blessed him that he had the promise, and without all contradiction, that less is blessed of the better. And here men that die receive tithes, but here or there he received them, of whom is witnessed that he liveth. And as I may say, Levi also, who received tithes, paid tithes in Abraham. For he yet is in the loins of his father when Melchizedek met him. If therefore perfection were by the Levitical priesthood, for under it the people received the law, what further need was there for another priest should rise after the order of Melchizedek, and not be called after the order of Aaron? Aaron was the beginning of this priesthood, the Levitical priesthood. For the priesthood being changed, there is made of necessity a change also to the law. Question, did the law change? No, the law did not change. So again, who is this Melchizedek, king of the elect, king of Salem, Prince of Peace, who brought bread and wine, and was the priest of the Most High Yah? So again, I'm just leaving that out there. Did Yeshua exist prior? So, how did the 318 men defeat so many of these armies that we just read through? It took us a little bit to read through them. Picking back up in verse 19. And he blessed him and said, Blessed be Abraham of the Most High, Elohim, Yahweh, possessor of heaven and earth. And blessed be the Most High Yah, which has delivered thine enemies into thy hand. And he gave him tithes of all. And the king of Sodom said unto Abram, give me the persons and take the goods to thyself. Listen closely. Verse 22, and Abram said to the king of Sodom, I have lifted up my hand unto Yahweh, the Most High, the possessor of heaven and earth, that I will not take from a thread, even to a shulak, that I will not take a thing that is thine, lest thou should say, I made Abram rich. Verse 24, save only that which the young men have eaten, and the portion of the men which went with me, Anar, Eshcol, and Mamre, and let them take their portion. So Abram went out, saved Lot, brought back the women and children and the people, and then told this leader, king of Sodom, that he didn't want anything from him. He didn't want a one little thread of a shoestring from him, right? That he could go on doing whatever it was he was going to do, but he certainly wasn't going to have this king say that he made Abram rich, right? And Abram continues to give thanks to the Most High, being obedient. All right, Genesis 15. And we're going to see this throughout this, the building of Abram's faith. Genesis 15:1. After these things, the word of Yahweh came unto Abram in a vision, saying, fear not, Abram, I am thy shield and thy exceeding great reward. Now think about when Yahweh is saying this to Abram, that he's his shield. Think about what is our biblical armor, and what does it have to do with? The Torah, right? The will of the Father, which Abram is clearly doing here. Verse 2, and Abram said, Yahweh my Elohim, what wilt thou give me, seeing I go childless? And the steward of my house is Eleazar of Damascus. And Abram said, behold, to me thou hast given me no seed, and lo, one born in my house is mine heir. And behold, the word of Yahweh came unto him, saying, this shall not be thine heir, but that thou shalt come forth from thy own bowels shall be thy heir. Verse 5, and he brought him forth abroad, and said, look now toward the heaven, and tell the stars, if thou be able to number them. And he said unto him, so shall thy seed, there's that word seed be, so shall thou seed be, offspring, from his own bowels, his own loins, not Ishmael. Verse 6, and he believed in Yahweh, and he counted it to him for righteousness. Was he being obedient through the works of the law and everything else? You better believe he was. Verse 7, and he said unto him, I am Yahweh that brought thee out of Ur of Chaldees, to give thee the land to inherit it. And he said, Yahweh thy Elohim, whereby shall I know that I shall inherit it? Now, Abram is asking for a sign, okay? So again, we're gonna learn more about Abram and Sarai's personalities, right? Don't take this the wrong way. Don't take this like that Abram's doubting the father, right? But he is questioning. Put yourself in his position and understand. Sarai's womb is not opened, right? We've just read this a couple chapters back. Verse 9. And he said unto him, take me a heifer of 3 years old, and a she-goat of 3 years old, and a ram of 3 years old, and a turtle dove, and a young pigeon. Verse 10. And he took unto him all of these, and divided them in the midst, and laid each piece one against another. But the birds divided he not. Verse 11. When the fowls came down upon the carcasses, Abram drove them away. Think about how Satan is, right? Abram's about to make this covenant, or he's about to make another offering to the Father, and it's building into this covenant that the Father keeps promising Abram. And here comes these birds, right? Swooping down, trying to take up his work. And we see Abram driving them away. Think about Satan and how he comes in, right? Same thing. Verse 12. And when the sun was going down, a deep sleep fell upon Abram, and lo, an horror, a great darkness fell upon him. Verse 13. And he said unto Abram, know of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in the land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and shall afflict them 400 years. This is to come later on, guys. But just remember this, okay? As you're watching through these videos, just remember this. This hasn't happened yet. This is why it comes on him under like this horror and a great darkness, right? But Yahweh's warning him. 14. And also that nation whom they shall serve will I judge, and afterwards shall they come out with a great substance. Again, all the children of Yahweh are tested. All of us are tested. Verse 15. And thou shalt go to thy fathers in peace, and thou shalt be buried in a good old age. Another promise being made to Abram. No, we'll get to Abraham in a minute. 16. But in the 4th generation they shall come hither again, for iniquity of the Amorites is not full yet. Okay? Verse 17. And it came to pass that when the sun went down, and it was dark, behold, a smoking furnace and a burning lamp that passed between those pieces, the animals that he just prepared. The sacrifice consumed. Verse 18. In the same day Yahweh made a covenant with Abram, saying, unto thy seed have I given this land, from the river of Egypt unto the great river, the river Euphrates. Now listen to the rest. The Kenites, the Kenizzites, the Kadamites, and the Hittites, and the Perizzites, and the Rephaim. Remember, these are the fallen, the offspring of the fallen. And the Amorite, and the Canaanite, and the Girgashite, and the Jebusite. Again, 10 of his enemies. 10 different offsprings of his enemies. Genesis chapter 16, verse 1. Now Sarai, Abraham's wife, bare him no child. Okay, so this is again a little bit of a rush. Okay, they're in a little bit of a rush because all of these promises are being made, and Abram's looking to try to figure out what's going on. Where is this seed going to come from? And Sarai is starting to feel the pressure because she knows her womb is closed. So let's start to get more of an understanding of what type of person Sarai is and what type of person Abram is. Okay. Now Sarai, Abraham's wife, bare him no children, and she said, and she had a handmaid, an Egyptian, whose name was Hagar. Now, we've already gone through this. Hagar was not an Egyptian woman. Now, when I first got into this not too long ago, trying to figure out how all of these nations were separate, I thought that Hagar, again, making this mistake that a lot of people make, that Hagar was an Egyptian woman. No, that's where Hagar was from, Egypt. And again, we'll go into proving that later, just like we're going to prove that Ruth is explained in Genesis chapter 19, where her lineage comes from. Verse 2, and Sarai said unto Abram, behold now, Yahweh hath restrained me from bearing. I pray thee, go in unto my handmaid, that it may obtain a child by her. And Abram hearkened to the voice of Sarai. And Sarai, Abraham's wife, took Hagar, her maid, the Egyptian, after Abram, and dwelt 10 years in the land of Canaan, and gave her to husband Abram to be his wife. And he went into Hagar and conceived, and when she saw that she had conceived, her mistress was despised in her eyes. So understand what's about to happen here, okay? Understand what's going on between Sarah and her mistress now that she has a child. Ishmael is born, okay? And Sarai said unto Abraham, Abram, sorry, my wrong be upon thee, blaming him. I have given my maid unto thy bosom, and when she saw that she conceived, I was despised in her eyes, and Yahweh judgeth between me and her. Now look, you're going to learn a lot out of this, okay? It's Hagar who's causing the issue, because Hagar is about to be corrected. Sarai is blaming Abram, and Abram is going to handle this the way that he should. Verse 6, but Abram said unto Sarai, behold, thy maid is in thy hand. Do to her as it pleaseth thee. And when Sarai dealt hardly with her, she fled from her face. And the angel of Yahweh found her by the fountain of water in the wilderness, by the fountain in the way of Shur. Verse 8, and he said, Hagar, Sarai's maid, whence camest thou? And whither wilt thou go? And she said, I flee from the face of my mistress Sarai. And the angel of Yahweh said unto her, return to thy mistress, and submit thyself unto her hands. In other words, stop the mocking. Stop making her feel despised in the eyes of her husband. And he's married to both of them, don't get me wrong. But Sarai's womb was closed, and this Hagar was causing tension between her and her handmaid. Now, this angel's correcting her, but listen to what he says. Verse 10, and the angel of Yahweh said unto her, I will multiply thy seed exceedingly. This is the angel speaking. That it shall not be numbered for multitude. So he's making a covenant with Hagar. And the angel of Yahweh said unto her, behold, thou art with child, and shalt bear a son, and shall call his name Ishmael, because Yahweh hath heard thy affliction. And we know that Ishmael will later go on to mix seed with other nations. Those nations will become the Arab nations that we know today. Verse 12, and he shall be a wild man. His hand will be against every man, and every man's hand against him. And he shall dwell in the presence of all of his brethren. Still to this day. Verse 13, and she called on the name of Yahweh that spake unto her, thou, God, seest me. For she said, have I also here looked after him that seeth me? Verse 14, wherefore the well was called Beer-lo-rai, I can't pronounce that. And this is the well after the living, the well of the living after seeing, meaning she lived after seeing the angel of the Most High. Again, this was said a lot. This was said by Israel or Jacob, right? When he wrestles, he says he had power with Yahweh because he saw God face to face, knowing no one has ever seen the Father and lived. We see the same story with Manoah and his wife, where the angel of Yahweh appears and they lived. It says after that, behold, it is between Kadesh meaning holy, and Bered meaning hail. Verse 15, and Hagar bare Abram a son, and Abram called his name, which Hagar bare, Ishmael. Verse 16, and Abram was 86 years old when Hagar bare Ishmael. So Abram's 86 years old. Okay? That would mean Sarai is 76 years old. Genesis chapter 17. Promise coming and a covenant being made. And when Abram was 90 years old. Now listen, remember we talked about the 100 years being a number of completion, right? He's 90 years old. And Yahweh appeared unto Abram and said unto him, I am the Almighty Elohim. Walk before me and be thou perfect. Verse 2. And I will make my covenant between me and thee, and I will multiply thy seed exceedingly. How many times has Yahweh said this? And Abram fell on his face. Okay? And Yahweh talked with him, saying, As for me, behold, my covenant is with thee, and thou shalt be the father of many nations. Neither shall thy name any more be called Abram, but thy name shall be called Abraham, father of many nations. For a father of many nations I have made thee. Verse 6, And I will make thee exceedingly fruitful, and I will make the nations of thee, and kings shall come out of thee. And I will establish my covenant between me and thee, and thy seed after thee, in their generations, for an everlasting covenant, to be an Elohim unto thee, and to thy seed after thee. Verse 8, And I will give unto thee and thy seed after thee the land wherein thou art a stranger, all of the land of Canaan, for an everlasting possession, forever. And I will be their Elohim. Verse 9, And Yahweh said unto Abraham, now I can say it right, Thou shalt keep my covenant before thee, therefore thou and thy seed after thee in their generations. This is my covenant, which you shall keep between me and you and thy seed after thee, and every child among you shall be circumcised. Okay, now we're getting into the flesh. And you shall circumcise the flesh of the foreskin, and it shall be a token of the covenant betwixt me and you. And you shall circumcise the flesh of your foreskin, and it shall be a token of a covenant betwixt me and you. Verse 12. And he that is 8 days old shall be circumcised among you, every man child in your generations, he that is born in your house, or bought with money, of any stranger which is not of thy seed. He that is born in thy house, and he that is bought with thy money, must needs be circumcised, and my covenant shall be in your flesh for an everlasting covenant. In whose flesh? Abraham's flesh. And the uncircumcised man child, whose flesh and foreskin is not circumcised, that soul shall be cut off from his people. He hath broken my covenant. All right, so again, think about today. The circumcision is of the heart. But why not the foreskin? Again, this was pertaining to a holy seed. And this was a way to make one perfect in a sense, before the eyes of the Most High. Ridding, again, I can't go into too much detail about the circumcision and what it does and how it's the purpose of it being removed. Verse 15, And Yahweh said unto Abraham, As for Sarai thy wife, thou shalt no more call her name Sarai, but Sarah shall her name be called. And I will bless her, and give thee a son also of her. Yea, I will bless her, and she shall be the mother of nations. Kings of people shall be of her. Listen very closely to what's coming, okay? Because he's going to make something very clear here. Where was I? Okay. And I will bless her and make many. Okay. Verse 17. And Abraham fell upon his face, and he laughed. And he said in his heart, Shall a child be born unto him that is 100 years old? And shall Sarah, that is 90 years old, bear? And again, he's not mocking the father. He's not mocking the father by laughing. This, again, could be very much laughter of joy. I think we sometimes jump the gun and thinking in our own minds that he's mocking the father, yet we haven't seen anything leading up to this point where he's done anything close to mocking the Father. All he's done is be obedient. Verse 18, and Abram said unto Yahweh, "Oh, that Ishmael might live before thee." Now Abraham's asking, but what about Ishmael? I hear you talking about Isaac, but what about Ishmael? And he's saying, oh, that Ishmael might live before thee. What did we just see with the angel of Yahweh talking to Hagar, Ishmael's mother? What did he say? He said he would make him exceedingly great by multitude of the flesh. Okay? Verse 19, and Yahweh said, Sarai thy wife shall bear thee a son indeed, and thou shalt call his name Isaac, which means laughter. And I will establish my covenant with him for an everlasting covenant, and with his seed after him. In Isaac shall my covenant be made. Remember Romans chapter 9. All 12 tribes are going to come through the loins of Abraham through Isaac. Verse 20. And as for Ishmael, I have heard thee. Behold, I have blessed him, and I will make him exceedingly fruitful, and I will multiply him exceedingly. 12 princes shall he beget, and I will make him a great nation. Again, these are the Arab nations that we see today. But why is it that Hagar and Ishmael being born unto Abram, being from their genealogy, how is it that the Arab nations come out of Ishmael? Well, we'll find out later, but Ishmael starts mixing seed, just like Esau. Okay? But my covenant will I establish with Isaac, which Sarah shall bear unto thee at this set time next year. And he left off talking with him, and Yahweh went up from Abraham. And Abraham took Ishmael his son, and all that were born in his house, and all that were bought with his money, every male among the men of Abraham's house, and he circumcised the flesh of their foreskin the selfsame day, as Yahweh had said unto him. And Abraham was 90 years old and 99, when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin, the year before the 100-year mark. And Ishmael his son was 13 years old when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin. And guess what? Even to this day, the Arab nations circumcise their children at the age of 13. Not on the day that the Israelites do. Verse 26. In the selfsame day was Abram circumcised, and Ishmael his son. And all the men of his house born in the house bought with his money of the stranger were circumcised with him. Now, we're going to get to this. We're going to start getting to the interesting parts. This is Genesis chapter 18. 3 angels are about to appear before Abram, and I'm going to prove it to you in the next 2 chapters. Now, we've been through these chapters, but we're going to dive deep. And the angel, it starts off in verse 1. It says, and the Lord appeared unto him in the plains of Mamre, which means oaks. So again, understand the land that they're in. And he sat down in the tent door of the heat of the day, and lifted up his eyes and looked, and lo, 3 men stood by him. Again, this is why I said earlier, do you truly believe that angels can't come down here in the flesh? Scripture says, be careful how you treat someone, because you could be entertaining an angel unawares. And again, I'm just quoting that. But do you think that it's possible for men to eat of angels' bread? Did the Messiah not just make that clear earlier, that he was that bread that came down out of heaven, which the men ate for 40 years? We haven't even got there yet. Why do we limit God? Why do we limit the Most High and say that it's impossible for angels to be in the flesh of a human being when Scripture says elsewise? All right. So first, verse 1 says, the Lord appeared to him. Verse 2, it says he looked up and 3 men are standing before him. And when he saw, he ran to meet them at the tent door and bowed himself toward the ground. And he said, my master, if now I have found favor in thy sight, pass not away, I pray thee, from thy servant. Let a little water, I pray you, be fetched, and wash your feet, and rest yourselves under the tree. And I will fetch a morsel of bread, and comfort ye your hearts. After that you shall pass on, for therefore are you come to your servant. And they said, do as thou hast said. So in other words, they're saying, yes, go ahead. Do what you're saying you're going to do. Verse 6, and Abraham hastened into the tent unto Sarah and said, make ready quickly 3 measures of fine meal, knead it and make cakes upon the heap. And Abraham ran unto the herd and fetched a calf tender and good, and gave it unto a young man, and he hastened to dress it. And he took butter and milk and the calf, and he dressed it and set it before them. And he stood by them under the tree and did eat. And he said unto them, where is Sarah thy wife? And he said, behold, she is in the tent. Verse 10, and he said, listen to what this man is saying. I will certainly return unto thee according to the time of life. Remember the promise that was just made earlier. And lo, Sarah thy wife shall have a son. And Sarah heard it in the tent door, which was behind him. Now, when Abraham and Sarah were old and well stricken in age, and ceased to be with Sarah after the manner of a woman, meaning she had already reached this stage that women go into, menopause, and in her mind, this is impossible, right? They're both well stricken in age. Abraham is 100 years old, and a promise was made 2 chapters ago that this angel would return and appoint them a time where Sarah would be born with her own child, and Yahweh would open her womb. So let's not jump to conclusion when Sarah laughs and say that Sarah was doubting God, because she wasn't. Think about this of joy. Think about this of all the years that she went through with seeing Abram with another woman, and knowing that she wasn't good enough to bear him a child when that's really all she wanted. She's been with Abram and Abraham through the thick and thin of all of this, and still by his side. Verse 13, and it says, and the Lord said unto Abraham, so we know these are angels speaking unto Abraham, wherefore did Sarah laugh, saying, shall I surely bear a child, which I am old? And verse 14, is anything too hard for the Lord? Again, I'm not going to say who this is speaking about. At the appointed time I will return unto thee according to the time of life, and Sarah shall have a son. Okay? Verse 15, then Sarah denied, saying, I laughed not, for she was afraid. And she said, nay. And the angel, this man is saying, and nay, but thou didst laugh. So we know angels are the only one, the Father's the only one that can give this authority to men that appeared to him in the tent door, and only they would know that Sarah laughed within herself, because he just called her on it and said, nay, but thou didst laugh. Right? And she admitted she was afraid. But this, again, you have to remember, she's laughing in the sense of, I'm 90 years old, and my womb is going to open. Am I going to give birth? How do we know this wasn't of joy? How do we know that this is mocking, right? All right. Verse 16, then the men rose up from thence and looked toward Sodom, and Abraham went with them to bring them on the way. You see, when you guys come in here and you start all that jibber jabber, I can see out of the corner of my eye, you're gone. We're talking about things about the Most High, our Father. So if that bothers you, go somewhere else. It's that simple. All right, so we see that these 2 men out of the three rise up, and the two are looking at Sodom. This is why the other two are with the Son of the Most High, in my humble opinion. Verse 17, and Yahweh said, shall I hide from Abraham that thing which I do? Talking about the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. Verse 18, seeing that Abraham shall surely become a great and mighty nation, and all the nations of the earth shall be blessed in him. Verse 19, for I know him, that he will commend his children and his household after him, that they should keep the way of Yahweh and do justice and judgment, and that Yahweh may bring upon Abraham that which he has spoken of him. And it says the Lord, but I'm seeing these three men, two of which are now looking at Sodom and Gomorrah, and the other one standing back and staying to speak and have a conversation with Abraham. Okay, and Abraham knows that his nephew Lot is in Sodom and Gomorrah. That's why we see him saying, should I tell Abraham this thing that I'm about to do, in verse 17. Verse 20, and knowing, and the master knowing, because the cry of Sodom and Gomorrah is great, and because their sin is very grievous. Verse 21, I will now go down and see whether they have done altogether according to the cry of it, which is come up to me, and if not, I will know. And the men, the other two men, they turned their faces and went from thence and went toward Sodom. But Abraham stood yet before the master. And Abraham drew near and said, wilt thou also destroy the righteous with the wicked? Peradventure there be 50 righteous within the city. Wilt thou also destroy and not spare the place for 50 righteous that are therein? That be far from thee to do after the manner, to slay the righteous with the wicked. And the righteous should be also as the wicked, that be far from thee. Shall thou not judge of all the earth and do right? So now Abraham is questioning the Father. Surely you won't destroy the righteous with the wicked. His nephew's in Sodom and Gomorrah. He's pleading with the Father at this point. And again, you have to understand agency. Angels are coming down to do the work of the Father. They speak on behalf of the Father. No man has seen the Father at any time and lived. The Messiah has made this clear, and so have many other people throughout the Scripture, that no one will see the Father until we are in our glorified bodies after the 1,000-year millennial reign. Verse 26, and the master said, if I find in Sodom 50 righteous within the city, then I will spare all the place for their sakes. But again, it's very clear, if they just read Sarai's mind, you already know they know what's going on in Sodom and Gomorrah and the cities round about. And Abraham answered and said, behold now, I have taken upon me to speak unto my master, which I am nothing but dust and ashes. Verse 28, peradventure there shall lack 5 of the 50 righteous. Wilt thou destroy all the city for lack of 5? And he said, if I shall find there 45, I will not destroy it. Again, do you think that Yahweh, the Father, and the Son, our Messiah, didn't know how many people were going to make it out of Sodom and Gomorrah? Think about this. Verse 29, and he spake unto him yet again, and said, peradventure there shall be 40 found there. And he said, I will not do it for 40's sake. Verse 30, and he said unto him, O let thou, master, not be angry, and I will speak. Peradventure there shall be found 30 there. And he said, I will not, if I find there for 30's sake. Verse 31, and he said, behold now, I have taken it upon me to speak unto my master. Peradventure there shall be found 20 there. And he said, I will not destroy it for 20's sake. 32, and he said, O let thy master not be angry, and I will speak yet this once. Peradventure 10 shall be found there. He already made it clear. If he found out of 50, 45, 5 of those being good, that he would not spare it. Abraham is just not getting it yet, right? And he said, I will not destroy it for 10's sake. And the master went his way as soon as he left communing with Abraham, and Abraham returned unto his place. Now, keep in mind, these 2 other men that were with this angel, the other 2 angels, are headed down to Sodom and Gomorrah. How do we know that? Genesis 19, verse 1. And there came 2 angels to Sodom at even, meaning the sun is setting. And Lot sat at the gate of Sodom, and Lot, seeing them, rose up to meet them. And he bowed himself with his face toward the ground, just like we just witnessed Abraham doing unto the 3 men that appeared to him in the plains of Mamre, the oaks. Verse 2. And he said, Behold now, my masters, turn in, I pray you, if you're into your servant's house, and tarry all night, and wash your feet, and rise up early, and go on your ways. And they said, Nay, but we will abide in the street all night. They were ready to destroy this place. Okay? Verse 3, and he pressed upon them greatly, Lot did. And he said unto them, enter into his house. He said greatly, and turn in unto them. And they entered into his house, and he made them a feast, and did bake unleavened bread, and they did eat. But before they lay down, the men of this city, even the men of Sodom, compassed the house round about, both old and young, and the people from every quarter. And they called unto Lot, and said unto him, Where are the men which came in this night? Bring them out to us, that we may know them. Again, the wickedness of this city. If you want to read about it in Jasher. There are other books that make it very clear. Them wanting to get to know these men was not shaking their hands. Okay? This is why the name of the city is called Sodom. And listen to how Lot responds. Verse 6, and Lot went out at the door unto them, and shut the door behind him. And he said, I pray you, brethren, do not so wickedly. Listen to how we know this is how they wanted to get to know them in that way. Verse 8, Behold now, Lot speaking, I have 2 daughters which have not known man, meaning they're virgins. Let me, I pray you, bring them out unto you, and you do what seems good in your sight. Only unto these men do nothing, for they came under the protection of my roof. Verse 9, and they said, Stand back. And they said again, This one fellow came in to sojourn, and he will needs be judged. Now we will deal worse with thee than with them. And they pressed sore upon the man, even Lot, and came near to break the door. But the men, the angels, put forth their hands and pulled Lot into the house with them and shut the door. Now, 11. Here is another confirmation how we know they're angels. And they smote the men that were at the door round about with blindness, both small and great, so that they were wearied themselves to find Lot's door. I believe that these 2 men just became beings of light, literally blinding all of them. All right, again, even if they weren't turning into angels of light, these men still just blinded all of the men that surrounded Lot's house. Okay? And the men said unto Lot, Haste thou. Here are there any besides, meaning is there anyone else here with you in this city, son-in-law, and thy sons, and thy daughters, and whatsoever thou hast in this city, bring them out of this place. Verse 13, For we will destroy this place, because the cry of them is waxen great before the face of Yahweh, and Yahweh hath sent us to destroy it. He sent who to destroy it? The angels. But wait. Verse 14, And Lot went out and spake unto his sons-in-laws, which married his daughters, and said, get you up out of this place, for Yahweh will destroy this city. But it seemed as one that mocked unto his sons-in-law. So they were thinking that Lot was joking around with them, playing some sort of silly game. And Lot, obviously, I would assume by the look on his face, that they knew he was being serious, right? But we have to consider where they're living, the city that they're in. 15. And when the morning arose, the angels hastened Lot, saying, Arise, take thy wife and thy 2 daughters, which are here, lest thou be consumed in the iniquity of the city. Verse 16. And while he lingered, the men laid hold upon his hand, and upon the hand of his wife, and upon the hand of his 2 daughters, and Yahweh being merciful unto him, and they brought him forth and set him without the city. So they just grabbed him, his 2 daughters, and his wife, and they just went from one place to another. They grabbed a hold of him and boom, set them outside of the city. These are angels. And it came to pass, when they brought them from abroad, that he said, Escape for thy life. Look not behind thee, neither stay thou in the plain. Escape of the mountain, lest thou be consumed. Remember, in the New Testament, what does the Messiah teach? When we see all of these things coming upon us, let the man that is standing on the rooftop not come down to take anything out of his house, to flee from one city to the next, not to look back. Verse 18, And Lot said unto them, Oh, not so, my master. Behold, now thy servant hath found grace in thy sight, and thou hast magnified thy mercy, which has showed unto me, saving my life. And I cannot escape to the mountain, lest some evil take me and I die. So Lot is afraid of going into the mountain. Why? Lot knows the surrounding areas very well. Lot had protection in Sodom, but Lot would not have that same protection outside of Sodom. Now, he's pleading with the angel. Behold now, this city that is near to flee unto, and it is a little one. Oh, let me escape thither. Is it not a little one? And my soul shall live. And he said unto him, See, I have accepted thee concerning this thing also, and I will not overthrow this city yet. Again, this city is going to be destroyed later, but he's not going to destroy it yet. For which thou hast spoken. Haste thee, escape thither, for I cannot do anything till thou come thither. Therefore, the name of the city was called Zoar, a little one. Again. The sun was risen upon the earth when Lot entered into Zoar, which also means destruction. Okay? So it's named destruction. Zohar's named destruction for a reason. That was the name of it prior, if you remember. Then it says, listen to verse 24. Remember, the angel said that they were there to destroy the city. Now listen. Then Yahweh rained upon Sodom and Gomorrah brimstone and fire from Yahweh out of heaven. Agency. These angels called upon the Father, and the Father rained fire and brimstone out of heaven, destroying Sodom and Gomorrah. Now, put yourself in the shoes of Lot, his wife, and his 2 daughters. If you were there witnessing this city, which was a large place, being destroyed from fire coming down out of heaven, would you not think that the end of the world was come? Okay? Verse 25. And he overthrew the cities, and all the plain, and all the inhabitants of the cities, and that which grew upon the ground. But his wife looked back from behind him, and she became a pillar of salt. Question. What land are they in, and what sea are they near? We can't keep taking the Father's word and making him a magician. He's not a soothsayer. He's not a magician. He is the creator of all things. Pharaoh's men were soothsayers, magicians. playing with spells, like Satan in Genesis 3:1, the one who spell casts. That's the name of the serpent. Okay? All right, so we see that the Salt Sea is right near the location where they are. Okay? Lot's wife looked back and got consumed because her heart was still in Sodom and Gomorrah. Verse 27. And Abraham got up early in the morning to the place where he stood before the Most High, and he looked to Sodom and Gomorrah and toward the land of the plain, and beheld, and lo, the smoke of the country went up as the smoke of a great furnace. Verse 29. And it came to pass, when Yahweh destroyed the cities of the plain, that Yahweh remembered Abraham, and sent Lot out of the midst of the city to overthrow, when he overthrew the cities in the land which Lot dwelt. So again, remember, this same blessing is over all of the nations of the earth because of our father Abraham, which was the father of many nations. Again, described in Genesis chapter 1, let us create man in our image. Not the same man as in Genesis chapter 2, Adam. 120 in your Strong's Concordance. All right. 31. And the firstborn, I missed verse 30. And Lot went up out of Zohar and dwelt in the mountain, and his 2 daughters with him. For he feared to dwell in Zohar, and dwelt in a cave. So now he's out of Zohar. Okay, he's in a safe place. He's in a cave. He and his 2 daughters. And the firstborn said unto the younger, Our father is old, and there is not a man in the earth to come into us after the manner of all the earth. So they thought the earth was destroyed. Come, and let us make our father drink wine, and we will lie with him, that we may preserve our seed of our father. And they made their father. Now remember, guys, these 2 are virgins. Okay, they haven't been with a man. Lot just said that. These are not evil women. Although they were in Sodom, Lot did not let them partake of the things of Sodom, even though that's where he was. Now they're trying to preserve their seed because they think that they're the last people on the earth. They made their father to drink wine that night, and the firstborn went in and lay with her father, and he perceived not when she lay down, nor when she arose. And it came to pass on the morrow that the firstborn said unto the younger, Behold, I lay last night, with my father. Let us make him drink wine this night also, and go you in to lie with him, that we may preserve our seed of our father. And they made their father drink wine that night also, and the younger arose and lay with him, and he perceived not when she lay down, nor when she arose. Thus they were both the daughters of Lot with child by their father. Verse 37, And the firstborn bare a son, and called his name Moab. Interesting, meaning of his father. Who was Ruth? Ruth was a Moabite. So for all of those people that are saying, oh, well, Ruth mixed seed. No, Ruth did not. This is where Ruth's genealogy comes from. Right here. The first child, Moab. The same is the father of the Moabites unto this day. That's verse 37. Read it yourselves. All right, verse 38. And the younger, she also bare a son, and called his name Ben-Ami, son of my people. The same is the father of the children of Ammon unto this day. Remember these names for later on, okay? Because as I keep breaking these books down, and again, I don't feel like I'm spoon feeding anymore. I feel like I'm making it clear what the scripture says. Because people are going to continue to come against this, and I know that. I'm fully aware of it. However, for those that are listening, that have ears to hear and eyes to see the truth, you will see without a doubt that this seed is going to be preserved for a reason. Genesis chapter 20. Just give me a second, guys. My breathing's calmed down a little bit, but I'm still having a hard time. All right. Genesis 20, verse 1. And Abraham journeyed from thence toward the south. Notice, they're always going south. Not into Jerusalem, south. And again, they will go into Jerusalem. King David will go into the land that we were talking about earlier, and they will take that land over, and it will become Jerusalem. But the Messiah made it clear that there would come a day where they would no longer worship in that land or on that mountain, but in Mount Zion. Okay? He's going to call his name out of two very specific locations, Shiloh and Jerusalem. This is why we know where the Gentiles are today, to this day, and this is why we know who the two seeds are from the beginning. It's common sense to stop and look around and see what's going on in the world, but people don't want to take this scripture and get serious with it. They don't want to break these words down. They just want to read it and say, oh, it says what it says. Well, it doesn't say what it says. Maybe to you it says what it says, but to me, my Father is showing me what it really says and what to look out for, even throughout the entire book. Again, as we get through these books, it'll become clear. We're already to Genesis chapter 20. Not bad for one Sabbath. All right. So Abraham is journeying south towards the south country and dwelled between Kadesh, meaning holy, and Shur, a wall. This is the same Shur where Hagar was just at, right? Which means a wall, and sojourned in Gerar, which just means a lodging place. And Abraham said of Sarah, his wife, she is my sister. Watch, we're going to see this again. And Abimelech, king of Gerar, sent and took Sarah. Okay? Now, is Abraham lying? No. It is his sister. It's his half-sister. But nonetheless, we're seeing this again, and we're going to see it continue on through the children. All right, verse 3. But Yahweh came to Abimelech in a dream by night and said to him, behold, thou art a dead man. Imagine that. For the woman which thou hast taken, she is a man's wife. But Abimelech had not come near her, and said to, it says Lord again, said to the master, I'm assuming an angel who came to him, wilt thou slay also a righteous nation? So let's understand something here. Abimelech knew the name of the Most High, okay? And although he's of the heathen nations, he hasn't done anything wrong. In fact, he's being respectful. And we're going to see how Abraham is respectful as well. This is how the people were surviving through these rough times, okay? And it's the same way that we're going to have to survive. For those people that are making videos about us and saying that we're racist and this and the other, you guys don't understand a bit of what we said. Everything that we have said thus far has gone clean over your head. But I'm going to let the scripture speak for itself. All right. But Abimelech had not come near her and said to the master, wilt thou slay also a righteous nation? Verse 5. Said he not unto me, she is my sister? And she herself said, he is my brother. And the integrity of my heart and the innocency of my hands have I done this. And Yahweh said unto him in a dream, yea, I know that thou didst this in the integrity of thy heart. For I also withheld thee from sinning against me. Therefore suffered I thee not to touch her. Verse 7, now therefore restore the man his wife, for he is a prophet. And he shall pray for thee. Meaning, now it's in Abraham's court, whether or not he prays and clears your name. And thou shalt live, and if thou restore her not, thou shalt surely die, and all that are thine. So all of Abimelech's house. Therefore Abimelech rose early in the morning and called all of his servants and told all the things in their ears, and the men were sore afraid. Then Abimelech called Abraham and said unto him, What hast thou done unto us? And what have I done to offend thee, that thou hast brought on to me this great sin? Thou hast done deeds unto me that thou ought not had been done. Now again, consider this. Abraham is a sojourner in a strange land, and these people are way more than he is, and he knows that not all of them are decent men. In fact, a majority of them are evil. But there are a few that are decent. There are a few that fear Yahweh, but they serve other gods. Do you understand me? All right, verse 10. And Abimelech said unto Abraham, What sawest thou that thou hast done this thing? And Abraham said, Because I thought, surely the fear of Yahweh is not in this place. Meaning what? It was clear for Abraham to look around and see that these people were serving other gods, and that their actions were proving their fruits. And continuing on, and they shall slay me for my wife's sake. And yet indeed she is my sister. She is the daughter of my father, but not the daughter of my mother, and she became my wife. And it came to pass, when Yahweh caused me to wander from my father's house, that I said unto her, This is thy kindness, which thou shalt show unto me at every place whither we shall come. Say of me, He is my brother. And Abimelech took sheep and oxen and men servant and women servants, and gave them unto Abraham, and restored him Sarah his wife. And Abimelech said, Behold, my land is before thee. Dwell where it pleaseth thee. And unto Sarah, now listen, he's taking Sarah aside. And Sarah, this is his way of honoring Sarah, okay? This is what Abimelech is doing. And this is why I say, not all of those that are called heathen are heathen, nor or they act like them, right? There are some very good Yah-fearing men. And again, there is a covenant made with these people that we know nothing about, other than it says that there is a covenant. There has to be, because he's sending them, and he raises them up, and he brings them down in the same way he does and he will do with all nations of the earth, including Israel. Okay? Behold, he says, my land is before thee, dwell where it pleases thee. And unto Sarah he said, Behold, I have given thy brother 1,000 pieces of silver. Behold, he is to thee a covering of the eyes, unto all that are with thee, and with all the other. Thus she was reproved. So this was something that was customary. He was honoring her. And I respect this man for doing such, right? Verse 17. So Abraham prayed unto Yahweh, and Yahweh healed Abimelech. Boom. Just as he said. Abraham restored Abimelech's house because he prayed to the Father to do so. And his wife and his maidservants, and they bare children. Again, so he closed up their wombs. Verse 18. For Yahweh has fast closed up all the wombs of the house of Abimelech because of Sarai, Abraham's wife. So again, Yahweh did not allow any heathen nation to mix with his chosen seed ever in this book. If you can find a place in this book where he does so, show me, and I will disprove you with this book, with the genealogies that are in this book. Show me, if you're so sure, show me, and I will disprove you. Because I've heard Ruth, I've heard Moses, all of which are easily disprovable. All right, Genesis 21. Remember, this is going back into Sarah giving birth, okay? And this is going to lead into the stories of the other children being protected, preserving a seed all the way up to the Messiah, and all the way after that. The books in the New Testament are clearly letting us know that it is not okay for nations to be mixing seed with other nations. Period. Now, the other nations, they're mixing seed, but it is forbidden for Israel to mix seed with other nations. Okay? Genesis 21, verse 1. And Yahweh visited Sarah, and he said, it says the Lord. So I'm going to go with, and the master visited Sarah as he said, because that's who showed up last time. And the master did unto Sarah as he had spoken. For Sarah conceived and bare Abraham a son in his old age, at the set time of which Yahweh had spoken to him. And Abraham called the name of his son that was born unto him, who Sarah bare to him, Isaac, again meaning laughter. And Abraham circumcised his son Isaac, being 8, exactly when he was supposed to. And again, 8 being the number of resurrection or new beginnings. When he was 8 days old, as Yahweh commanded him. And Abraham was 100 years. Again, remember the promise, the number of promise, the number of the children of promise. He was 100 years old when his son Isaac was born unto him. And Sarah said, Yahweh hath made me to laugh. Again, now let's look back at Genesis 19 and let's not jump the gun and say Sarah was laughing, doubting the Most High. No, she wasn't. Neither was Abram. They both fully understood and were fully convinced that Yahweh would come through on his promises, but they made one small mistake, which wasn't really a mistake. It had to be, and Yahweh ordained it to be so, or he wouldn't have allowed it, which was Abram going into Hagar. But this had to happen because we had to have a rival nation that would disagree with us, believers that believe in this holy book. And in their holy book is also the first 5 books, but that's where it stops. Okay? Let's see. Verse 6, and Sarah said, Yahweh hath made me to laugh, so that all that hear will laugh with me. And she said, who would have said unto Abraham, that Sarah should have given children suck? For I am born him a son in his old age. And the child grew and was weaned, and Abraham made a great feast that same day that Isaac was weaned. And Sarah saw the son of Hagar, the Egyptian, now listen very closely, which she had borne unto Abraham, mocking. Now, if you want to know what he was doing, you can read about this in the book of Jasher. He was aiming a bow and arrow at Isaac. Okay? Verse 10, wherefore she said unto Abraham, cast out this bondwoman. Here we go again. Cast out this bondwoman and her son, for the son of this bondwoman shall not be heir with my son, even with Isaac. Now, Abraham already knows this, right? Abraham already knows that the promise was coming through Isaac, and that Ishmael would be numbered by flesh, right? But not numbered by promise. Not counted as the seed, okay? Verse 11. And this thing was very grievous in Abraham's sight because of his son. Also in the book of Jasher, you will read that Ishmael, Abraham's son, grows up, and Abraham would go and visit Isaac from time to time. And Abraham went and found that Isaac had mixed seed with the wrong woman. And he refers to this woman as a tent peg. And the first woman he goes and visits, is very rude to him. And it just didn't sit right with Abraham, right? And Abraham left a saying with her and told his wife at the time that he needed to remove this nail from his tent, right? And Ishmael returns to the tent after Abraham is gone and says the saying that Abraham left with her. And the second time we see Abraham going back to meet his son is still not there, but he has a new wife, meaning he took his father's advice. And then he tells the new wife to leave a saying with him, and she leaves the saying that this is a good thing that he has done, replacing this nail in his tent, or this tent peg, Okay? Continuing on in verse 12. And Yahweh said unto Abraham, let it not be grievous in thy sight because of the lad and because of thy bondwoman. In all that Sarah hath said unto thee, hearken unto her voice, for Isaac shall thy seed be called. Confirming it again. Yeah, I meant Ishmael, but I think if you guys are familiar with Jasher, you'll know what I mean. Verse 13. And also the son of the bondwoman will I make a nation because he is thy seed. Again, reconfirming what the angel already told him. Verse 14. And Abraham rose up early in the morning and took bread and a bottle of water and gave it to Hagar, and putting it on her shoulder and the child, and sent her away. And she departed and wandered into the wilderness to Beersheba, the well of the oath. Back to the well. And the water was spent in the bottle, meaning she was out of water. That's why she went to the well. And she cast her child under one of the shrubs, and she went and sat down over against him a good way off, as it were a bow shot. So within a bow and arrow shot of distance, she's sitting away from the child. For she said, let me not see the death of the child. And she sat over against him and lifted up her voice and wept. Now, remember, this angel has already came and told them what was going on, right? No problem. This angel has already come and told her and Abraham what was going to happen, right? So now Sarai sees the first seed, that Ishmael, pointing a bow and arrow and mocking Isaac, right? Verse 17, and Yahweh heard the voice of the lad, and the angel of Yahweh called to Hagar out of heaven, and said unto her, What aileth thee, Hagar? Fear not, for Yahweh hath heard the voice of the lad where he is. Verse 18, arise, lift up the lad, and hold him in thy hand, for I will make him a great nation. And Yahweh opened her eyes, and she saw a well of water. And she went and filled the bottle with water and gave it to the lad to drink. And Yahweh was with the lad. And he grew up and dwelt in the wilderness and became an archer. Verse 21, and dwelt in the wilderness of Paran. And his mother took him a wife out of the land of Egypt. Big mistake. This is what causes Ishmael and his descendants, again, not Ishmael, but the descendants of Ishmael, those who he would marry. The curse would fall on Ishmael because of this, but all the descendants of Ishmael are now come under the same curse as Esau. Verse 22, and it came to pass at that time that Abimelech of Pishkol, the chief captain of his host, spake unto Abraham, saying, Yahweh is with thee in all that thou doest. So now here comes the same people, right, that are continually fighting over these wells, which we're going to see more of. Now therefore swear unto me here by Yahweh, he knows the name of Yahweh, that thou wilt not deal falsely with me, nor will my son, nor with my son's son, but according to the kindness that I have done unto thee, that thou shalt do unto me in the land whither thou hast sojourned. And Abraham said, I will swear. And again, I don't think this word swear is a good translation. I think this is an agreement between two men, two good men, okay? Verse 25, and Abraham reproved Abimelech because of the well of water, which Abimelech's servants had violently taken away. And Abimelech said, I not had anything to do with this, neither did anyone tell me of this, neither have I heard of this, but unto this day. So this is the first time that Abimelech is hearing that his servants had violently taken this well away from them. And Abraham took his sheep and his oxen and gave them unto Abimelech. And both of them made a covenant. So see, they're making an agreement. Excuse me. And verse 28, and Abraham set 7 ewe lambs and of the flock by themselves. And Abimelech said unto Abraham, What mean thee by these 7 ewe lambs, which thou hast set by themselves? And he said, For these 7 ewe lambs shalt thou take of my hand, that they might be a witness unto me, that I have digged this well. Everything bears witness, guys. All animals, all water, everything living bears witness to what we do. And you'll notice later on that Abraham will not accept an agreement from any of these people, as he will buy Sarah's tomb or sepulcher and will not allow these people to give him anything. In the same way that when he went to save Lot, he would not accept anything from them. And he made it clear why. Verse 31, Wherefore he called that place Beersheba, where they swear both of them. Thus they made a covenant at Beersheba, and Abimelech rose up at Pithcol, and the chief captain of his host, and they returned unto the land of the Philistines. And Abraham planted a grove in Beersheba, and called there on the name of Yahweh, the everlasting Elohim. And Abraham sojourned in the land of the Philistines' land many days. Okay? Genesis 22. But we're really moving along here. So now we're going to see the testing of Abraham's faith. And again, I want you guys to understand that this word tempt that's in verse 1 is not a clear, proper translation. It should say proved. Okay? And it came to pass after these things that Yahweh did prove Abraham, and said unto him, Abraham. And he said, Behold, here I am. Verse 2, And he said, Take now thy son, and thy only son Isaac, whom thou lovest, and get thee into the land of Moriah, which means chosen or provided of Yah. Okay? Now this is not just any land. Okay? And offer him there for burnt offerings upon one of the mountains which I will tell thee of. Again, let's just stop for a second and consider, after everything that's happened and all the promises that have been made, Yahweh comes and tells Abraham, after this son that's been born, that he's waited on all of this time, he's over 100 years old, go and sacrifice your son for burnt offerings on the mount which I will tell thee. All right, turn with me to 2 Chronicles 3. Verse 1. It says, Then Solomon began to build the house of the land at Jerusalem in Mount Moriah. Okay, this is exactly where he's being told to take his son. Where the master appeared unto David his father, in the place that David had prepared, in the threshing floor of Aran the Jebusite. Now, I'm going to give you another thing that's potentially possibility. Mark 15:22. And they bring him up to the place of Golgotha, which is being interpreted the place of the skull. I don't think it's a coincidence that Yahweh has just called Abraham to take his son Isaac to Mount Moriah. Okay? Picking back up in verse 3. And Abraham rose up early in the morning and saddled his ass and took 2 of his young men with him and Isaac his son and clave the wood and the burnt offering and rose up and went unto the place which Yahweh had told him. Then on the 3rd day Abraham lifted up his eyes and saw the place afar off. And Abraham said unto his young men, Abide ye here with the ass, and I and the lad will go yonder and worship and come back to you again. Verse 6, And Abraham took the wood of the burnt offering and laid it upon Isaac his son, and took the fire in his hand and the knife, and went both of them together. And Isaac spake unto Abraham his father, and said, My father. And he said, Here I am, my son. And he said, Behold, the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb for the burnt offering? Understand something. Abraham is well stricken in age. Isaac is old enough to rock his father if he wanted to, right? Think about this. If Isaac knows at this point that there is no burnt offering, if Isaac wasn't raised properly by his father, Abraham, he could have ran, he could have fought, but is that what he does? Let's find out. Verse 8. Yeah, verse 8. And Abraham said, My son, Yahweh will provide himself a lamb for a burnt offering. So they both went off them together. Verse 9. And it came to pass, and they came to the place, which Yahweh had told him of, and Abraham built an altar there, and laid the wood in the order, and bound Isaac his son, and laid him on the altar upon the wood. And Abraham stretched forth his hand, and took the knife to unalive his son Isaac. And the angel of Yahweh called unto him out from the heaven, and said, Abraham, Abraham. And he said, Here I am. And he said, Lay not thy hand upon the lad, neither do thou anything unto him. For now I know that thou fearest Yahweh, seeing that thou would not withhold thy only son from me. Again, guys, this is difficult, right? This is having a child myself. This is difficult. So I believe this is our Messiah, because it's an angel calling down out of heaven saying, Now I know I can trust you, Abraham, and I know that you'll raise your children up to do what you do in obeying me and following me and keeping my commandments and thanking me after I do everything by keeping you everything that he needed. He never prayed for any of that stuff. All he did was be obedient. He went where the Father told him to go, and he came out rich. And everywhere, in every land he would go in, he was always the head and not the tail. And he was always, as you'll see, and he will continue, being as gentle as a dove when necessary, but wise as a serpent. Verse 13. And Abraham lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, behind him a ram caught in the thicket by his horns. And Abraham went and took the ram, and he offered him up for burnt offerings in the stead of his son. And Abraham called the name of the place, Jehovah Jireh, Yah will provide, as it is said to this day, in the mount of the master it shall be seen. And the angel of Yahweh called up to Abraham out of the heaven a second time. And he said, By myself I have sworn, saith Yahweh, for because thou hast done this thing, and hast not withheld thy son, thy only son, which we know the Father is going to allow his only son to come to the earth. Remember Proverbs 8, we read in the very first teaching on this book, we read Proverbs 8. Who was with Yahweh from the very beginning? His only begotten Son. Verse 17. That in blessing I will bless thee, and in multiplying I will multiply thy seed as the stars of heaven, and of the sand of the sea upon the shore, and thy seed shall possess the gate of his enemies. Now listen to this. This is important. Shall possess the gate of his enemies. Our gates right now are completely overthrown. Our gates and our cities, are being burnt before our very eyes. Isaiah chapter 1. Why? Because we refuse to be obedient. Do you wonder why there's people flooding into your cities? This is why. Question. Who are the stars that are numbered for the sand of the sea? Wake up, Israel. Verse 18. And in thy seed shall all the nations of the earth be blessed, because thou hast obeyed my voice. So Abraham returned unto his young men, and they rose up together and went to Beersheba. And Abraham dwelled in Beersheba. And it came to pass after these things that it was told Abraham, saying, Behold, Milcah, she has also borne children unto thy brother Nahor. Now, this is going into Nahor's lineage, which is Huz, the firstborn, Buz, his brother, Kemuel, and Aram, and Chezid, and Hazo, and Pildash, and Jupath, and Bethuel, and Bethuel begats Rebekah. Okay, remember this name, because this is why this is being told. So understand what we just read. And it came to pass after these things, it was told to Abraham, saying, Behold, Milcah, she is also born children unto thy brother Nahor. So, question, out of whose loins did Rebekah come from? We haven't read about Rebekah yet, but we're about to understand who Rebekah is. It's very clear. It tells us right here in this chapter of this book, Genesis 22, that in verse 23, and Bethel begat Rebekah. Rebekah means to ensnare, but not in the way that we would think. Rebekah is beautiful and well-loved, and she ensnares Isaac's heart. Okay? It goes on to say, these 8 Milcah did bear to Nahor, Abraham's brother. Is Yahweh preserving seeds thus far? From Genesis chapter 1 all the way up to Genesis, we're about to be in 23. Is Yahweh preserving a seed? I would like to believe that people have caught on to this already. Let's see. So this is 12 in total. 12 children that have come out. Again, this is going to be a reoccurring pattern as well. 12 children, and you're always going to see the children are born in pairs. They come as in twos. So wait till we get to the children of Israel. They're born in twos, in pairs. And it spells out, the names of the children spell out something very important, which we will get to. I don't know if we'll get to it tonight, but we will get to it nonetheless. Now, Sarah, while they were on this trip, before we go into Genesis 23, Sarah has passed away. Okay? This is what Genesis 23 is going to be about. Now, there is a reason why Sarah passes away, and if you want to understand, please familiarize yourself with the book of Jasher. I gave 2 witnesses earlier to this book, which is spoken about in the 66 books of the mentioning in the book of Joshua, and in the other book, I believe it was First Chronicles, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong, but 2 places where it mentions this book of Jasher. Okay, and we need to be reading this book of Jasher because it's important, because it tells you that all the while Satan was up to something while this was taking place with Abraham and Isaac, and how Sarah winds up dying. Okay, Genesis 23. And Sarah was 107 and 20 years old. These were the years of Sarah's life. And Sarah died in Bratha, and the son in the same is Hebron in the land of Canaan. And Abraham came to mourn for Sarah, and he wept for her. And Abraham stood up before his dead, and spake unto the sons of Heth, these are the Hittites, saying, I am a stranger and a sojourner with you. Give me a possession of a burying place with you, that I may bury my dead out of my sight. So he's asking the children of the Hivites, which he gets along with, as we see Moses gets along with these people. Again, there only comes a time where they have to fight up to a certain point. If they were to have fought and exterminated everyone, they wouldn't be on the earth today. The same way we wouldn't be here on the earth today. Okay? if the Messiah didn't come through this bloodline, through this preserved seed, none of us would be here. But that doesn't change the prophecies in the Old Testament. And it certainly doesn't change the prophecies in the New Testament. So we have to stop saying that Yahweh's word is racist, because it's not. All right, let's see. And Abraham stood up before his dead and spake unto the sons of Heth, again, the Hittites, saying, I am a sojourner with you. Give me possession of a burying place with you, that I may bury my dead out of my sight. And the children of Heth answered Abraham, saying unto him, Hear us, my master. Thou art a mighty prince among us. In the choicest of our sepulchres bury thy dead. None of us shall withhold from thee his sepulchre, but thou mayest bury thy dead. And Abraham stood up and bowed himself to the people of the land, even the children of Heth, the Hivites. And he communed with them, saying, If it be your mind that I should bury my dead out of my sight, hear me and entreat me for Ephron of the son of Zohar, that I mayest give thee that he may give me the cave of Malpekah, which is a double burial site. So he's buying more than one sepulcher here. Why? Well, there's a reason. Which he hath, which is in the end of his field, for as much money as it is worth, he shall give it to me for a possession of a burying place amongst you. And Ephron dwelt among the children of Heth, and Ephron the Hittite answered Abraham in the audience of the children of Heth, even all that went in at the gate of his city, saying, Nay, my master, hear me. The field will I give unto thee, and the cave that is therein I will give it to you. In the presence of the sons of his people I will give it unto thee, and bury your dead. And Abraham bowed down himself before the people again. Okay? And he spake unto Ephron in the audience of the people in the land, saying, But if thou wilt give it, I pray thee, hear me. I will give thee money for the field. Take it of me, and I will bury of my dead. Why is he insisting to pay for this land? And Ephron answered again Abraham, saying unto him, My master, hearken unto me. The land is worth 400 shekels of silver. What is that betwixt me and thee? Bury therefore thy dead. Now listen to how Abraham responds. And Abraham hearkened unto Ephron, and Abraham weighed out to Ephron the silver, which he had named in the audience of the sons of Heth, the Hivites, 400 shekels of silver, current money, with the merchant. And the field of Ephron, which is in Machpelah, again, that's this double sepulcher, which was before Mamre, the land of the oaks, the field of the cave which was therein, and all the trees which are in the field that were in the borders round about were made sure unto Abraham for a possession in the presence of the children of Heth, before all that went in at the gate of his city. And after this, Abraham buried Sarah his wife in the cave of the field of Machpelah before Mamre, and the same is Hebron in the land of Canaan. And the field that the cave that is therein made he sure. He got the deed or the title to this burial cave, this sepulcher, unto Abraham for a possession of a burying place by the sons of Heth. So again, we see that there is a way that Yahweh expects his children to conduct business, and that Yahweh provides all that his children need. For Abraham had plenty of money, and so did the children of Heth here, the ones that are speaking, in the man that is speaking back to Abraham. And there was no strife between them, right? And as this continues on, we see that eventually there will be strife, but not with all. Okay? Genesis 49:29 through 32. And he charged them, saying unto them, okay, I'm jumping ahead for a reason. I am to be gathered unto my people. This is Abraham. Bury me with my fathers in the cave that is in the field of Ephron the Hittite, and in the cave that is the field of Machpelah, for it is before Mamre in the land of Canaan, which Abraham bought with the field of Ephron the Hittite for a possession of a burying place. Now, it just so happens that the five, right, is it? Yeah, because the E is silent. So the five that are buried here just so happen to spell out the name Israel. Again, picking up in verse 31, there they buried Abraham and Sarah his wife, and there they buried Isaac and Rebekah and his wife, and there they buried Leah. Very interesting, I would say. And I would say that Yahweh does not make mistakes. Verse 32, the purchase of the field and the calf that is therein was from the children of Heth in that land. Okay? Now, Genesis chapter 24. If you guys want to continue, I need to take a quick break. My breathing is calm, but my head is just, I've been reading nonstop. My head is pounding. And I have a little heater in this back room that I'm in, my office, and I probably need to turn it off because I feel like I'm yelling. But as we go on to Genesis 24 and onward, you are going to see everything that we just witnessed happening all over again with Isaac. Okay? And just so you guys know, I am taking this book of Genesis and all of the books after it, and I'm going to put them in a documentary format. And I'm not going to read all of the scriptures, but for those of you that have watched this, those documentaries are going to be there to serve as a witness that everything that we've been teaching is 100% scripture and not our opinions, and we can prove it, unlike these people that are mocking us. We can go through this book because Yahweh has raised up a generation of men that would come forth and speak truth regardless of how it makes one feel. And we're doing it respectfully, the way that Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob had done it. The way that Moses did it when he left the people that he was king in the land over, when he left them with the book of Enoch and taught them how to blow the shofar and taught them how to keep the law, because he understood that there was a covenant. So again, these videos are going up for the people that are here to learn. But I assure you this, I am this sure of what I'm saying. These videos will stand against the people that have made videos against my brother Jason and against my brother Michael. And I don't care how they feel about me, but when I see my brethren being attacked because there are so-called pastors and teachers out here that don't know the very first thing about this book, that bothers me. So I'm going to set the record straight, and I'm going to allow Yahweh to speak for himself with his own book and his own word. So with that being said, give me about 20 or 30 minutes max, and I will be back. I just need to let my head calm down. The videos are on my page. It was just pinned at the top of the page. If you look at the top of the page, it's called Sword of Israel on YouTube. Just type in Sword of Israel. That'll take you right to my page. And you'll see all of the videos are categorized. You'll see that there are documentaries and there are teachings just like this one. And I'm uploading all of these series. So let's see, we stopped at 24. We started at 12, I believe. So this will have to be 12 through 23. So I'm going to see if those other two, I know one's already uploaded. I'm going to see if the other one's uploaded. I'm going to take a quick break and start downloading this one, and then I will be back. So I hope you guys are having an excellent remaining afternoon of your Sabbath. I don't know if it's still light anywhere. I don't think that it is. It might still be. It's only 7 o'clock here, so it probably is in California. Anyhow, I'll be back on. Shabbat Shalom, guys. Again,